I'm Kara Sabin. I'm the CEO of Shea Moisture. I'm also CEO of Beauty and Wellbeing for Unilever North America. And I am so excited to be here with you to have this really important conversation. I have two guests that are going to join me. First, I'd like to bring Keisha Center to the stage from Monkey Paw Productions. Let's get a big hand of applause for Keisha. And next, I think you also know this next person I'm bringing to the stage, Coco Jones. I know, it's a little bit of a hike. Thank you, Coco. Yeah. Have a seat.
Hey, y'all.
They're like, hey. All right, so let's get into this conversation. We actually started this conversation in January of this year at Sundance Film Festival. We had Logan Browning, who's on Dear White People, and we were talking about the impact of colorism on black actors and actresses, and so we want to keep that conversation going. So first, I'm going to introduce formally. You may have seen earlier this week on Sunday that someone won an award, BET Best New Artist, Coco Jones. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How did that feel?
I mean, it was honestly very overwhelming. I think just because, like, I've done this thing all my life, all my childhood, like, protecting myself from, like, disappointment. So I was like, I'm just happy to be nominated, just happy to be there. So when they called my name, I was just shook. And then I got to see my family in the audience, and they haven't seen me perform since I was 17. So it was just very overwhelming. I was super grateful.
It was so beautiful to see because you could tell how appreciative you were, and we were all cheering you on. So congratulations.
Thank y'all. Thank you, guys.
So it sounds like you know Coco Jones very well, but for the two of you that may not, in addition to her red-hot music career, Coco's been on the big screen, TV, movies for years. And she also is on the tiny screen called TikTok. You have
Girl, I don't know.
Okay, see, that's a real G. 2 million something followers. I love following you, so we're so happy to have Coco. And then Keisha Center, Keisha. It's so great to have you here. Keisha is a globally recognized executive known for delivering game-changing content at the intersection of entertainment, politics, philanthropy, and fashion, and is the Senior Vice President of Culture and Impact at Monkey Paw Productions. She produces mission-driven campaigns and content and brand partnerships that unpack the themes that we're going to get into today. So welcome, Keisha.
It's such a pleasure to be here with both of you all. Thank you. Everybody.
All right. So we're here to talk about colorism, and we're going to just dive into it. So I want to toss the first question to you, Coco. If you could start, what does colorism mean to you, and how do you think it shows up in media and entertainment?
Well, can you guys hear us okay? Oh, okay. Colorism to me, I feel like it's not something that I chose. I feel like it's something that my ancestors dealt with, that we're constantly trying to break that cycle as a people, but also like in the world. Yeah. Because even though it happened to my ancestors, the world continued to perpetuate that same unfair tactic, you know? So I look at it kind of like an additional bump in the road that I have no control of, you know? And so I try not to let it affect my self-confidence, the things that I know that are way deeper rooted and have been in history for such a long time. I think it's definitely changing in media, even to have someone like you, Keisha, and Monkey Paw Productions that strategically can put out content that showcases black people in different lights and our different talents, and then it does well in the media. It just continues to shift the narrative of the world that, like, okay, we did learn a certain way and we were instilled a certain truth about who to put on screen and what stories to tell, but the world is evolving, you know, and it doesn't work the same way as well. So I do think it's gotten better with time. And I do feel like chocolate girls are really having their moment.
Hello! Yes, we are!
The moment that we have worked hard for and we deserve. So I'm really living for that.
I love that.
And I think that the more we continue to bring each other up, the more we continue to go out and support productions and movies that feature us, the more it'll show the world and the people of power like, okay, maybe we need to tell these stories more. They seem to be doing well.
Right. I love that. And I love that you also said it's global, it's worldwide. We were talking backstage. Yes, we talk about colorism in the black community, and that's what we're going to talk about here because we're 3 brown girls. But you could go to any country around the world, and the impact of colorism is prevalent. So Keisha, for you, how would you define colorism? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, you know, and I'm so happy to be here with Coco and you. And one of those, like, our goal is to make sure that this moment is a lifetime. That we are positioning women and redefining and broadening the definition of what beauty looks like. We can't no longer define it by closest proximity to whiteness, right? We are beautiful hues, beautiful textures and shapes that show up, and we need to be able to broaden the understanding of beauty and what it looks like as we look around here today. So for colorism, for us, what we started learning was, you know, it was Alice Walker who coined the phrase in 1982 of colorism, and she was seeing how black people in particular were represented in storytelling and in novels. And so she looked at it, the prejudice around hues, right? And so, and their color, racial discrimination for darker skinned people. And so to be sparking that conversation and to make sure that representation, what you're doing and how someone else sees themselves, right?
It's
and
so
sees
important.
their possibility, be it through the content that we create from Lupita to Daniel Kaluuya from Kiki. You know, we really want to continue to redefine and broaden and take a responsibility in Hollywood to say that beauty and blackness and beauty in people of color, like it's global, shows up all across hues, and we have to be redefining that. We have to be at the forefront of that conversation.
Yeah, and I know we're each from different generations, but if you each could speak to when is the first time that you really felt like you saw yourself, that you felt seen, whether it be in media or Hollywood or music. When do you remember that moment when you felt like, I feel seen?
So I'm a Cosby kid. I don't know who else was watching the Cosby Show as a kid, but Rudy Huxtable was when I saw myself. We were the same age. Also, her name was Keisha. Her real name was Keisha, right? So I think I did have a privilege of being that same age and what that show meant for me, and also the diversity of that family, right? That whole family had representation across the entire spectrum. And so I saw myself as a kid, and honestly, when I would be in class, kids would call me Rudy, you know. But like that was one of the first time, and I think that's a privilege to be able to see it that young of a positive character that you saw and you looked like.
Yeah.
But then also, I have to admit, you had all types of shows and things that were from Essence magazine that was always in my house,
Yeah.
right? And, you know, all these magazines that were in our house, I got to see other beautiful women and people that look like me. But that really is the first time, probably elementary school, of where I saw myself on television. And that imprinted for me at a young age the importance of that to where I am today and the work that we're doing. What about you, Coco?
What about you, Coco?
For me, the first time, I'm a little younger than the Cosby era, but the Disney era had me in a chokehold.
Okay.
Okay? So when I saw the Cheetah Girls,
Oh, yeah. I know.
I was so hype. I was like, we can do that? We're allowed to do that? Like, I saw multiple different ethnicities of women all singing and loving each other, supporting each other with bomb outfits. Like, they weren't put in any box. They didn't have to speak a certain way. They got to talk the way that we really talk. And of course, Raven was that girl and is that girl and will forever be that girl because she had her own show and she had the Cheetah Girls. But I was fascinated by the singing and acting and dancing all in one package because I always have felt like I'm multiple things, and I didn't want to ever feel like, okay, you pick one, you know? You can only be one thing. You can only get in where you fit in. And so when I got to see these women that looked like me and represented me be whatever they wanted to be creatively free to express themselves, it really inspired me so deeply. I would be up there learning the dances and the songs. I'd be like, we have a performance tonight, ladies and gentlemen, okay? It was so inspiring, and I want to continue to make the next generation of women inspired, because that charged me up. I want to be able to pass that feeling to the next young black girl.
I mean, representation, that is why it's so important, because when you see that, it pours into you and it fuels you and it gives you wings, and then you can pay that forward, and so you're being that for the next generation.
Kara, what about you though? When did you first see your?
Yeah.
So I'm a little older than both of you, but definitely Essence magazine. That was always in my house. I saw beautiful reflections of us across the diaspora. But the one moment I remember, and I had mentioned this in another interview. There's an artist. Her name's Patrice Rushen.
Yeah.
You know her music, Forget Me Nots, You Remind Me, and her album cover that I think was called Straight from the Heart. She's on the cover with these beautiful braids, with this beautiful beads, and she's brown, and this is when there were albums, and I would stare at that album cover, and I felt like, here's someone that looks like me. And you just need to feel seen. I think ultimately, that's what we want. Everyone just wants to be seen. So Keisha, to that point, being the co-founder of the Colorize Project, could you explain what is the Colorize Project? What's the mission?
Yeah.
What is it that you hope to accomplish?
So for over 2 years, we've been hard at work with the League, a nonprofit that's a social impact nonprofit, and Bad Robot Production as well at Monkey Paw, to really look at colorism in Hollywood, and to come up with and suggest actionable steps through a toolkit that we can share with industry, the people in the industry, from creatives to our talent to our executives, to understand how throughout the entire process, from development all the way to post-production, that we can just create a space where we can have these conversations about colorism, so we can understand. Everyone doesn't know, right? Everyone doesn't know what it is. Everyone's not impacted the same. So can we start these conversations and create a toolkit where we can unlearn some biases that we might have and relearn new ways to look at people and broaden, as I said, we have to broaden the definition of what beauty looks like. The entertainment industry has so much power, right? We entertain, but we also educate, and we also imprint, shape young people, what the possibilities, where they can go, what they can do, the little shows they can put on in their room, that they start doing shows on BET, right? You know, on stage. And so we have so much power. So we have created this toolkit where we are asking, to go to colorizeproject.com to sign up to learn how you can help take actionable steps to join us in this conversation to do better. And we all can do better, whether we are black or brown. We can all learn better, and how we can all make sure that our talent that we care so much about, that puts in themselves to be on screen, that those of us behind the camera, those of us in the executive offices and rooms, can be doing the best things we can to support them and to make sure our audiences feel seen as well too.
I remember when I was first starting in my career, and I was, very junior and didn't feel very empowered. And companies, if they were doing a creative brief, the brief would say the casting, they wanted someone that was ethnically ambiguous.
Girl, I saw that all the time.
And so that always used to bother me, because it's like, well, what does that really mean? You just want to other anyone that's not white into one group, and you don't want to take a position and hire a black actress or a Latina actress. You just want it ethnically ambiguous. So when I did finally reach a point where I felt empowered, I was like, I don't want to see another creative brief with that. Like, say what you mean and what you want. But being in the business for several years, you started quite young. Are there moments where you felt like your complexion may have inhibited your progress or your success?
Absolutely. I think at a really young age, it registered to me that the girls who always got the job were lighter than me. And I didn't really know how to take that, because for me, I wanted the job so much that I kind of think I desensitized myself to that, but it was really suppressed in me, to the point where when I would see like a light-skinned girl, I would automatically assume her personality, like what she thinks of me. And I didn't even know I would do that, because I've been experiencing that since I was a little kid. It wasn't until I went to therapy that I would say little things. Okay, therapy is real.
Love therapy.
I would say little things like, oh yeah, it'll probably be her. She'll probably get it. She's light skinned, And my therapist would be like, who is telling you that you're underqualified. I'm like, well, come on. Like, it was just so second nature to me until somebody stopped me and was like, the things that you're saying are trauma. That is not truth, you know? And I think it really can be changed. Even having someone like you, Keisha, you would probably be the person to go to bat for me when I'm auditioning, you know? There's so many little pieces that have to be put together in order for me to get the job. So when there's someone there that looks like me, they can fight for me in those rooms and in those meetings when the executives are deciding where they're gonna put the money. You know, you could be the one to push my resume up to the table. So I don't want y'all to think that it's only me making waves because I'm on the screen. There's several people behind the screen that are saying, choose this girl, choose this girl. You know what I'm saying? And I need people in my corner. So you're more important to me than me being up there. I'm serious, because how can I get the job if I don't have people going to bat for me, you know? If it's only people who don't look like me, they won't get me. They will not fight for me. So I've realized that, yes, I have experienced that a lot, but I think for me, I had to work to make it not about me. It's history, you know? It's culture that we have to remold. That's hard to do. It's like rebranding.
It is.
It's hard.
It's reframing. I call it decolonizing your mind. You have to change the lens through which you see the world and what you think is beautiful, what you think is worthy. And it takes a deprogramming. So, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, and that's what she's saying. It is comprehensive. It's how do we work behind the camera in those rooms to make sure they're protected, they're seen, and we don't always get it right. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to be at the table, is that you can get it wrong, but so how do we learn together, right? How do we learn together? How do we work with partners? Like, we're so glad Shay wanted to have this conversation, right? You know, how do we work together to do everything that we can to make sure our talent, our stars are elevated, are seen, and are comfortable, and then the people who are watching, our audience, they're so important to us that they relate and they feel. You heard her when she came out. You heard them when she came out. Like, what do we do to continue to reinforce that and then arm people with those tools to do it?
So can you speak to, I feel like this is similar to the conversation around diversity that you must have, Keisha, in some of the rooms that you're in, but can you speak to, like, when you're speaking to other groups and you're trying to help them get it, you're speaking to other groups and you're trying to have them understand the work that you're trying to do with Colorize, how do you explain why it's good for business, a more inclusive approach to seeing talent?
I think that's going to be a continuous and ongoing conversation, right? And what I've seen is it's twofold for me. One, it is box office. I mean, you do see when you have a more diverse cast, the numbers don't lie. People come out. You come out in droves, and we know that. We come out to support. We come out to see the stories that matter to us, and we see that. And we see that also in box office and films. I mean, look at Little Mermaid. Look what's happening. You know, people are excited about that. But then it also is a responsibility. And I think it's a responsibility to make sure that we are authentically telling the story. So one of the things that you bring up is that we got to continue to make sure that people like me, people like you are in those decision-making rooms and in those positions to be able to advocate for, put forward, bring new ideas to the table. And so I think that we got to continuously do this work to see that it's good for business, and it's good because it's our responsibility as well.
So this may be a sensitive question, but do you find that conversation more challenging when you're speaking to white executives or people of color? Because colorism, as you know, is within our own community.
Yeah, that's actually a hard question. But what I will say is that whether you're speaking to an all-white audience or more people of color, the message is still the same. The message is still the same of why it's important and why we need to push this forward. And I do think, you know, I do think that no matter what production you're on, I mean, look at the cast of Bel Air. It's like to reimagine that with new eyes, new lenses, right? It is absolutely important, and that takes us. I mean, if we're mostly black executives putting that forward, it takes us in that room all thinking about how do we cast this way to reimagine some of the things that we might not have been able to cast years and years ago. And so you still have to have that same narrative. So I think I would say whatever rooms I'm in, I show up with the same message and the importance of why we need to move this work forward, but because you're speaking to, who you're speaking to is who you're speaking to, but it is about educating and pushing that forward. And it takes all of us. It takes all of us, white and people of color and black people in that room, to be able to actually make that change.
I'm not sure how much time we have. Someone, 1 minute? 1 minute, okay. So, for each of you, what's one thing that you would like to leave with the audience?
Yes, I was just thinking about this. I was like, oh, I want one more thing to say. I want to say, I know we're talking a lot about colorism and the negative and the plight, but one thing that I've consistently seen in my life is the people who look like me are so good at what they do that there's no choice but them to eventually win, you know? I don't see any mediocrity in the women that look like me. Truthfully, it's not allowed, but I will say whatever it is that you're striving for, the better you are at that skill, the more they have no choice.
Right.
Eventually, it was going to be me. They have no choice. I'm gonna be the best. I'm going to work the hardest, you know what I'm saying? And even when the opportunity didn't go to me, I did not give up. I wanted to a couple times. But I knew for myself, and it's another thing too, to know for yourself that you can have great things. It's one thing to like move in it and hope it really pops eventually, but to know for yourself, like, I don't care what none of y'all say.
That's right.
I'm going to be the best at this. This is going to be my life and how it plays out. I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I'm not gonna stop until I get there. All the women who, like one example, one of my best friends, she was casted in a show. When she went into the audition, they already had all the white people casted to play the mom, the dad, the sister. She went in there and she was so good and so prepared that they recasted the whole cast. You just gotta show up and show out. That's what we have to do. And when it's the right opportunity, it will be us, every time.
All right, well, I mean, yes. Keisha.
Amen to that. One thing I would leave the audience with is join us. Like, join us in this conversation and come and help us with ideas of how we can continue to press my job to make sure that we show up and we start having this conversation. So, you know, what we're asking while we're here throughout Essence is to use the hashtag #ColorizeProject, and talk to us about when's the first time you saw someone that looked like yourself, right? And then join us we're launching our splash page today of colorizeproject.com, and send us your information and let us be a part of that conversation with you and be able to create the space where we start having this conversation in community. And that's the one key thing that I would love for us. Like, it's gonna take collective work for all of us to get where we wanna go. And I just think I know we want everyone at the table.
That's great. Well, on behalf of Shea Moisture, I'm so happy to have both Keisha and Coco here with us. And, you know, we talk about health. We talk about healthy hair, healthy skin, but we also talk about healthy body and mind and spirit, financial health, healthy communities. And so continuing to have these kinds of conversations is what's really important to us at Shea Moisture. So thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of your Essence Fest.
Bye, y'all.
Right, thank you.
Love you.